observations, insights into what we currently have going on in the world of software, or what we call, the things that we call LLMs, AI, and agents, and all that kind of stuff. So I think, based on my use of these tools, I've been using them for a little while now. Right. Anyway, I've been using them for a little while, and I'm listening to what a lot of people are saying on YouTube. Um, Listening to various, I guess, the influential YouTubers out there, as well as some of the scientific minds that are out there that are both in the sciences as well as people in the fields of engineering that are associated with creating these things. The companies, big, large organizations, of course, that make all these different tools for LLMs and for AI. And of course, reading several articles, many articles about how AI will impact us, everybody, engineers, as well as the regular folks that are generally in society, as well as people that are not in the fields of like engineering, like, people that are like, nurse practitioners or plumbers, electricians, all that kind of stuff, carpenters. I've been reading about all these things, and it's very, very interesting, right? To see, where the impact that AI is currently having. So some of the things that I think that's interesting about the field of software now, that we've kind of been in the field of software ever since I've been in it. That is, it's definitely made progress, right? We've gone from the internet, or I should say, a very small internet, things like Netscape and all that kind of stuff, to where we have these big time browsers that can do all kinds of things, like Chrome and all that kind of stuff, Edge and whatnot. So we've seen progress in lots of the technologies like associated with those kind of things, right? The computers behind them, the hardware, as well as the different methodologies taken to solve some of the problems, like various algorithms and all that kind of stuff. So there's been a lot of definitely creative innovation. But I think what has happened, we did get to a point where things are kind of stale. Maybe I said that in one of my previous videos. I don't know, but things are stale, right? Meaning that we're stuck in a while loop. And what happened was, we get all of these, while we're stuck in that while loop, we're solving the same problem over and over again, pretty much using like different framework, or creating different frameworks to solve the same problems over and over again, just in a different way, which is not bad, but I mean, it didn't, it's not pushing anything really forward, right? Meaning like, we're just in a while loop, right? So you create 7 different frameworks, and dozens of frameworks that solve the same problem over and over again with a different framework. Whether or not one is better than the other, I suppose that depends upon how you use it, right? That usually how it boils down to, um, the application of what it's actually used for and how it's actually used, right? That usually dictates whether or not this framework is, something that's useful or viable for that particular equation, or that particular, when I say equation, application that is actually being applied to. Right. So, which is, that's just how it is. That's just how it goes, right? Some frameworks are just terrible and nasty. Some frameworks are awesome, and like I said, it depends on how you apply them. But we've been stuck in that while loop for a while. So now I think what's going on is now we realize we're stuck. We've been stuck in that while loop with the dawn of, the use of these LLMs, which, and LLMs as well is not not super new, but it is new enough, from the standpoint where we have a lot of hardware and that have been organized to allow us to actually, level these things up with all these different parameters and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's, I guess that's the newness about it. Agents are not new either, agents have been around for quite a while. I mean, ever since I've started in the field of computer software, agents have been around, right? It's just that now we have a set of agents that have the ability to, um, that just basically been leveled up based on the hardware that they use. So the capabilities are a lot more um, than they were before, and a lot more people have access to these agents now. But anyway, so now we're out of the while loop. So what that kind of means to me is that, or I should say, the direction I think that the field of software engineering is going, is really we're going back to the early days of when we had individuals out there creating all this open source software that was innovative and creative, helping us to level up. So we're going back to those times, but now the foundation for that we're building on is AI, right? The AI agents, the LLMs, and the infrastructure that it's built around these things, the tooling, and all that kind of stuff that's built around these things that will enable us to start to level up, right? Level up the software so that now what we're doing, instead of just you know in the while loop creating frameworks, we now are going back to a time where we're going to solve hard problems, right? Now, what that means is that we have to, right? We have to take the time to study and understand hard problems, right? In the fields of software engineering. And that really means when we say software engineering, usually software engineering is applied to an area that requires us to perform some sort of study. It may be some sort of mathematics, fast forward transform, whatever, so things like that, signal processing. So that's an area of application that we can apply software to make all kinds of interesting analysis and gains. All right, so that's what I'm saying. We have to actually sit down, and now we have to perform a survey, just like I guess when people are performing a PhD, right? They learn all the fundamentals. So that's the same thing here. It's still worthwhile. People keep on asking whether or not it's worthwhile to learn to code. Yes, of course. All right. So, and that's for many, many reasons. All right. Aside from the benefits that you get in terms of your thinking, right? Your ability to think clearly, and then transform that thinking into something on a written page, and then taking those things that are on a written page, like requirements, written in the English language, or written in a language that is a human language, and then converting that into a format that is, computer software language, right? So that process, that mental process, I think adds a lot to your ability to think in a logical fashion. You don't necessarily need that to think logically, but it does help. And then there's a lot of other characteristics associated with that will help you too along the way in designing and developing software. One, you also want to know, in terms of learning a programming language, you're really learning about the mechanisms that the programming language has available to you, right? So that will help you to, have a pretty much describe things better. Like if you're doing spec-driven development, which is what I hear a lot of people saying, which is basically just writing down a set of requirements, right? So if you want to have the capability to actually explain things in nauseating detail to the LLM so that there's not any ambiguity as far as what direction the software you're trying to make needs to actually take, or what kind of steps. Should I use some sort of a binary search, or should I use some sort of Bloom filter? Things like that. You want to understand what those things do. And also in the programming language, you want to understand what kind of mechanisms are available to you so that you can actually describe to the AI, hey, use a certain construct, right, inside of this programming language to hold the data in it. Maybe you're going to use a vector instead of a hash map, or something like that, right? Or a set. You want to understand it in that level of detail so that you can be very descriptive in describing to the AI what you're trying to get done. And that will actually help you to build better software with the AI. And that's what I'm saying. So when I'm talking about, hey, should you still learn to program? Of course, hell yeah. So then now going on along that thought process that I had when I'm talking about leveling up, yeah, it's about getting back to solving hard problems, things that actually take time, even with AI, right? Getting back to the stage of, hey, we have the ability to, I should say writing a program to send data over a network is super easy, right? But then writing a program to send data over a network in an efficient, effective way, that takes time. Of course, we have many programs that do that. So I'm not saying that that's innovative or creative. What I'm saying is that you want to have the ability to, or you want to actually take the time out to actually study hard problems. That means doing a survey of hard problems in the world of software, in the world of various engineering endeavors. Like you want to take a look at maybe another field of engineering that you normally would not have. But now we have AI that may actually help you to actually break it down into steps and pieces that are more, more digestible, right? So that now, if you weren't into electrical engineering, now you can go ahead and use the AI to help you break down electrical engineering into a way that you would understand. So that'll make you more likely to, hey, I want to actually get involved in electrical engineering now because, hey, it's broken it down to me in that fashion. And now, once you have the background, right, it's kind of like in the age of Star Trek, you see them working with a computer and doing X, Y, and Z, but they always went to Starfleet Academy to develop a solid foundation. It's the same thing here. You want to develop a solid foundation in maybe a couple of programming languages, 2 or 3, not bad. And then also you want to have a solid foundation in a particular endeavor in engineering, like a particular endeavor in whatever it might be. If it's biochemistry, you like that, or if it's chemistry, or if it's something like signal processing, or if it's something mathematical based, or if it's something like mechanical engineering, or if it's a combination of all of those, electronics and mechanical engineering, of course, which lends itself to various kinds of automation like robotics and whatnot. But anyway, that's what I'm saying. Understanding those hard problems that exist, things in physics as well, right? There's a lot of hard problems that exist, things that are probably still in the realm of imaginary, right? And also, there's a lot of patents out there. There's a lot of papers. There's an ocean of things out there that are very imaginative and very creative, solved by a lot of, not solved, but maybe not even solved, but really written about by some very smart people out there, but they haven't had an opportunity to address them, right? And so that's what I'm saying. There's an ocean of that out there. So there is definitely not we don't have a problem in terms of problems to solve. There are many problems out there to solve, right? But so I believe that's basically where we're at, meaning that the while loop that we're pretty much getting out of now. When we're inside of that while loop, a lot of the problems have been solved, right? How many times are you going to make an email or email app? How many times are you going to make a chat app? How many times are you going to make something like a Facebook? How many times are you going to make something like a e-commerce application or whatever? All those problems have been solved already. So we don't no longer have to remain trapped inside of that while loop, reimagining the same kinds of, reimagining different, different solutions to the same problem, right? Because all of those problems have pretty much been solved. Not to say that there's an opportunity out there to actually go ahead and create a new kind of e-commerce app or something like that. No, there's opportunities to do that. Sure, there's always going to be little, what I say, little twigs in there where all the branches are already there, whatever it is, or little opportunities, I should say, that are out there in the forest. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. So I'm not saying to not attempt to actually make something new out there like that you believe hasn't already been done. What I'm saying is that I believe that's where we're going right now. We're just in an age where there's so much opportunity to go ahead and chase hard problems. Think about what we have. We have the AI, LLM type agents that give us the ability to organize things in a way that, hey, it can make things a lot simpler for us to break problems down into small parts so that we can understand the individual problems and then, or understand the individual parts, and then from there put it all together so that we can articulate all kinds of interesting new problems that we haven't come across before, right? And as an industry, I think that's pretty much where we're going and what we're looking at. So it's kind of like taking all these wonderful tools, taking the AI, taking the LLMs, taking all of the tooling that's surrounding them, the RAG and all that kind of stuff, and then taking things that are in the hard world, right? I should say in the physical world. I mean, of course, the field of robotics, that's going to benefit. We already know that. 3D printing, that will help us to create and make things that, hey, we didn't even dream of before, because now we have the ability to do that. So what I'm saying is, do research, find these hard problems, start to attack them, and that's where we'll find that satisfaction that we used to have as software engineers. Like, as a software engineer, it is always satisfying when you solve a problem, when you understand how to, design, you understood how to implement a particular algorithm, what a Bloom filter is, what a binary searches, whatever. You know what I mean? Breadth first search and all these kind of things. It's kind of like, wow, yeah, I was able to solve that. Oh, you have that moment of, hey, it clicked. And then another moment of inspiration is when you have the ability to make some software and it's used by thousands of people, and you see people using your software, and it's just like, oh wow, that's what I'm talking about. So we're in that next. We've graduated out of the while loop. I keep on saying that, right? And now we're entering probably another while loop, right? A bigger while loop, or a different kind of loop, that has many more things in it, a lot of opportunity to go ahead and solve lots of large scale problems that we didn't even imagine. And now we have to actually be creative now. We got to go back to being very creative to solve new and interesting problems out there, to create new and interesting opportunities out there, right? Not just really continue to rely on what used to work. Because what used to work will still probably work, no doubt. But when I say that, I'm talking about in order to get to level up, right? Like for example, the job market, right? The job market is pretty tough, and the result of that is because the organizations, they're stuck in a while loop, right? Notice that that's what usually happens in the world of technology, right? A lot of people, especially if you're in the a world of, or if you're in an organization that's making cash, you have a set customer base. You don't want to do anything to upset that set customer base. So you can't do anything too innovative, too creative, right? A lot of us that are in the world of software, we know that. We know that if we're working on a large scale piece of software, whatever it might be, you have a customer base that's depending on that software, and you may have all kinds of ideas to be innovative and creative about that particular set of software, but you can't make anything that's going to deviate or change the user experience too much, because then that's going to create issues. That's going to create probably a new learning curve, or a new, whatever it is for that particular customer. So that'll upset the balance, and that might cause the customer to start looking elsewhere, right? And it also creates a new significant or an added surface area for things to go wrong, meaning more bugs or whatever it is, right? So all of that is always taken into consideration, by management or VPs or whatever it is in an organization, right? First things first is always keep the customer paying, right? And always listen to the customer in terms of what they think they need or what they do need, right? And that's how that goes. So your ability to get out of the loop, is usually very slim. Right? You get out of the loop by maybe working on other projects, other open source things, or doing some extra consulting outside of work, things like that. But I think now what's going on in the working world of software is that a lot of these organizations are pretty much stuck in the loop. Right? What I mean by that is just what I said. They probably are using AI, from what I understand, they're using AI to do, to probably cut certain workers, right? And then take one worker and use that one worker to actually do the work of 3 people, right? Something like that. Or maybe they're moving the jobs over to another country, right? And augmenting, using AI to augment that, those workers' skills or whatever it is, to make them level up to what the ability is for engineers over here. Something like that. I don't know. I have no real idea as far as that goes, but that's what I've been hearing. Things like that, of that nature. With that being the case, that's fine. Like I said, what that just means is that we, as engineers, as scientists, as people that are technical in this profession, we need to just start becoming more creative and more innovative in terms of, hey, all right, let's start attacking some hard problems and start creating new industries, right, to actually address the shortfall of what's going on in these other capitalistic organizations, because their first thing is to make cash. So they want to make money. So what they're going to do is they're going to do whatever it is they can to make money and make the bottom line rise, which is fine. So what we have to do is now create new industries, right, where they cannot, where they don't address these new industries, because then they're not going to address those things, right? Because they're not going to pivot fast enough to start addressing new problems, especially if those are hard problems, right? And so I believe that's where or I shouldn't say all, but a lot of opportunity is in solving hard problems. That's where we're back. That's where we're back at. We're back to that. And then what happens is solving hard problems or solving these kinds of problems, it will create new industries, and that's where the new opportunities will be, right? Because even with AI, the problems that we're attempting to solve will still remain hard, right? And also the idea is that there's a lot of utility in what we're trying to solve, meaning there's a lot of value for the industry as a whole. For, I should say, when I say industry, I'm talking about there's a huge customer base out there then that wants the solutions to these hard problems, right? So it may be, well, whatever it may be. I'm not going to actually go into that. I could make another video on that, but that's pretty much where we're at, and that's where the opportunities lie to me in my reasoning, right? So short of that, what I could see possibly happening if we don't, like, settle, or generally some people, I should say, I could see, if they don't want to retrain, or if they don't want to actually go back into like doing hard problems, because it's like starting all over again, right? Then I see people sort of like, basically pulling back from the workforce, right? And as a result, your ability to earn what you used to earn won't actually, you won't have that ability anymore. So in order to conserve cash, you might sell your house and you may move to somewhere that is more rural, right? And I can see a lot of these communities that are called intentional communities actually popping up all over the place as a result of, this, right? So people, I believe, may see the opportunity to go out into rural areas and start saying, hey, it's not working for me in the big cities anymore. Expenses are going up. So, hey, I'm just going to get into a community. Might not necessarily be off grid. Some of them may or may not be, but they'll be more intentional. And their goal is to live as a cooperative so that, hey, we can vibe off of each other and everybody can actually, pool their skills and resources together to actually pull together as a community and work things out so that we can all live and have a hot tub, right? And, basically what I'm saying, feel comfortable, happy and comfortable, and still live a happy life. So I think those kinds of opportunities are also going to develop as well, right? As we move forward, right? In this new era of what we're calling AI, right? That's going to be a big thing. Pretty much going back to the land, solving those kinds of problems and working a lot with your hands. And also it'll give people a sense of fulfillment and a sense of, hey, achievement, right? I've done this. I used to sit at a desk, but now I'm capable. I have the skills and the ability to do this now. Hey, I'm going to work the land. I'm going to do, I'm going to work machines, whatever it is. I'm going to solve, fix, I don't know, fix electronics or fix, small engines or whatever it is, right? You could do that in cities too, but I'm just saying maybe you want to do that out in a rural area where there'd be a huger, maybe a bigger demand for, or larger. You might be more dependent on those kinds of things out in the rural area. I don't know. Maybe not. Depends on the community. Like I said, depends on the intentional community that people actually become part of. Right. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for that as well, because it is difficult. It is difficult for people to retrain sometimes, especially when you love this particular profession, and to start all over again, right? Some people just don't want to take the time to do that, and they may find that there's an opportunity in the rural world to just, hey, buy a piece of land and just chill, right? So I think that's another area of opportunity for people in this world of AI. There's nothing wrong with that. That's, hey, cool, right? You can also do a lot of tech stuff in the rural area as well. Right? You can start making your own little cities. Why not? Nothing wrong with that. That's where cities came from. There was a need. People got together and they started creating their cities, maybe because it was a shipping port, or maybe it was an area of destination where I don't know, where there was a lot of trade or whatever it is. But I think things like that will start to pop up. And I mean, people have already started doing these kinds of things. From some of the things that I've seen online, there's a lot of like intentional communities out there. But I think there's going to just be a more so a need for that, a lot more recycling of older tools, and repurposed tools, and all that kind of stuff. So I think these are the these are the directions that we're going when it comes to the world of AI. And of course, that goes for and that goes for well, let's leave it at that, right? So, but anyway, just some thoughts on the world of AI and some of the opportunities I believe existed and where I believe we're going. So, and I do have some, I guess, detailed thoughts on some of these areas and some of the problem areas, as well as some things related to the whole rural living as well. I think those are like the areas for huge opportunity in the world of in the world that we're currently living. All right, over and out. See you guys later. Thanks. Bye.